It's exactly 10:30, and I think we'll begin. I forgot my gavel. Anyway, my name is Ann Blair, and as your council chair, I welcome residents, both long-term and new arrivals, to the June 14th, Chapter 651 resident meeting, coming to you from the Longwood Room at Village on the Green. This meeting is also recorded live on Channel 3 and will be posted later today as a YouTube recording on Touchtown app. Our major focus since June 1st council meeting has been the big grand opening event of June 7th, as you know, with Joey acting as Master of Ceremonies, a grand event to celebrate the final restoration of the clubhouse and the former health center. The event began in the Longwood Room with invocation from resident Larry Herbert, opening comments from me, followed by remarks from LifeSpace board members, followed by the entire group participating in the ribbon-cutting event led Joey, Executive Director. But as to our council meeting, which is the part I report on at these meetings, you're probably all already aware of most of what went on. That took place on June 1st. And it includes the passing of the new dining room dress code and remarks from Steve Guss, our vice chair, on the new building improvements. Those minutes were circulated on Monday of this week, and they've been available through your Villa reps and at the front desk, and they're also on Touchtown. So before I go into any of those details, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Joe, our current Executive Director, Joey Mukherjee, to present the 651 portion. Please.
Your turn.
Fire me.
I'm going to make that permanent Executive Director.
Yes.
Well, good morning, everyone. So nice to see you all. So while we do this meeting monthly, this does serve as our quarterly Chapter 651 meeting, which is required by the Office of Insurance Regulations. So hence the extra pomp and circumstance around this. But very similar agenda to many of the items that many of the presentations in the past. I am trying to skinny this down for the sake of your bottoms and bladders. As I think we hit almost a record 2 hours last time, so we're going to try and keep this a little bit more streamlined. I have posted the slides to Touchtown, so anybody watching at home that may not be able to see the screen can certainly follow along on Touchtown. And I already got hard copies, or the file over to Sue, and she was running off copies, so you should be able to leave here and grab a copy of the slides if you'd like. But available on Touchtown as always. So as we've been always focusing on this year, the big four, right? Team member engagement, resident satisfaction, occupancy, and net operating margin. So I'll come back to this, but this really will kind of frame our presentation this morning. Starting at a high level, the enterprise. So this is all 17 of the CCRCs within the organization, and their combined progress on the big four, as we call them. I know it's an eye chart, but what I want to highlight two areas. Higher level of living average occupancy, so that's your assisted living, memory care, and skilled nursing, throughout the organization is doing very well. We're exceeding our budget, and we're really best in class in that area, so I want to highlight that. Net operating margin is also in the green, so we're on budget there. While we have revenue and expense a little mixed there, revenue not quite as robust as we expected, but expenses are within line. We still have a positive net operating margin there as an organization. So a lot of work going on at the community level, but we're seeing it kind of in aggregate at the organization level. When you break down the enterprise into our regions, this is a little snapshot at Florida. Traditionally, Harbor's Edge has been the sole kind of flagship carrier for the rest of the Florida communities. Village on the Green continues to join Harbor's Edge in the positive territory from a financial performance perspective. As a region, we've got some work to do with the Abbeys and the Waterford, but we're seeing progress there as well. But overall, Village on the Green continues continues to cover our payroll and contribute to the organization as a whole. So we're going to jump into the big four, starting with team member experience. We had our surveys come back for that portion of the team member survey results come back. Not quite where we wanted it to be, but we saw some positive progress. So want to kind of dive into some of the steps that we're taking to address those areas. First one, a text-based communication method for the team members to be able to push out messages quickly, standardized monthly department meetings so we can have kind of a continuity of message across all areas. And then really the big one, which I kind of talked a little bit about in the last weekly update, which is a team member recognition program. And thank you, I've got quite a few volunteers from residents to participate in that committee. And really our effort is, to celebrate what we're doing well, to promote those as examples to others, so team members can see this is what's expected, this is what living life space means, this is what residents find as meeting that need. And it kind of speaks to another area, which is customer service on the resident satisfaction survey part. So I'm kind of going after two things here, because the team members kind of said our recognition of the good things isn't very robust. So we're kind of trying to come up with one program to reward specific examples every month, come up with a team member of the month and ultimately a team member of the year. One of the examples I use is Publix. When you're checking out, you look up, you can see pictures of team member of the month, team member of the year. We've got quite a few hallways now, take a little bit of a wall and put up something like that so our team members can see who we're recognizing and honoring with that reward. So that's what we're working on for team member engagement, resident satisfaction. We've kind of gone over the big areas that were identified as themes: culinary, customer service, and communication. And then also your confidence in our ability to manage your future healthcare needs. So those are kind of the four big areas that we were diving into. So part of some of our action steps to start to address some of those concerns, the bi-weekly, really twice a month, culinary corner. So that's kind of an effort to get myself, our culinary director, and eventually our culinary team in front of you to talk to you about what we're doing, but also to have a discussion, understand what your concerns are, your experiences are, a little bit more frequently. Obviously we still have comment cards, we have happy or not, but sometimes it's just best to get into kind of a discussion environment so we can better understand what some of your comments are or overall observations are, and tell you a little bit about what we're doing in that regard. So that's kind of one of the action steps we're taking to address that. The weekly written update. Obviously this meeting was getting pretty lengthy. Some folks come, some folks watch, some not at all. But hopefully the weekly update in your inbox is just another way to get maybe not such big items, but the smaller items that you would want on a week-to-week basis. So I'm putting that out, and I've gotten good feedback, and so I'll continue with that. And please, if you have comments on what you'd like to see tweaked with that, I'm happy to incorporate that. Just so you're aware, my goal is to get that out Fridays. There have been a couple Saturday mornings where I've done that, but really it's just kind of by the end of the week I want to get that in your inbox, so coming in on Monday kind of what to expect might be going on the campus. Getting your involvement in the team member recognition program, it speaks to that customer service element. I didn't want to take a punitive approach towards, we got to be better at customer service. So I'm thinking, if we're taking it from the prospect of celebrating and raising up good examples, let's try that effort first. And then really the timing with having Wendy come on as the Director of Health and Wellness, I think a lot of what her work will do and achieve over time is help increase your confidence in our ability to manage your healthcare needs throughout the continuum. So that's, for me, I think we have an excellent health center, we have excellent memory care and AL, but what gets lost in transition is your move, either temporarily or long-term, between that can be improved. And I really think that's where Wendy can help us to kind of bridge some of those gaps and make sure that you have confidence in our ability to guide you, or sometimes your family members, because you come in independently, making your own decisions, might not necessarily be bringing the kids along at the same pace, and then 20 years later, the kids are the ones who are like, I don't know what this is, aren't you supposed to deal with it? And it's like, well, we need to do some education with them and bring them along in the process as well. So those are kind of the 4 things that we're working on to address the Net Promoter Score, because we have our next survey coming up right around the corner. I think it might be August or September. So that's every 6 months. We do wait, well, the organization waits the September one more than this one. I'm not sure why that is, but of the 2, the fall one is the bigger one. Still learning about the process, but certainly hoping to see our work on this will actually have some, move the needle a little bit there in that area. So, talking about Wendy, obviously, she touches kind of residents in all aspects, but her focus is independent living. So from the very beginning, prospects, making sure that folks from a health perspective meet our criteria and can be an independent for at least 6 years, because our actuarial models, our business models are based off of that. So we want to make sure we're bringing in folks that can fit that model. Obviously supporting our existing IL residents, making sure emergency contact information is up to date. She's working on hurricane preparedness. If anybody needs to update their hurricane information, please, Wendy's here. She's got her notepad so she can update that. And that's just the phone calls she's been making about, do you have any medications that need refrigeration? Do you have mobility needs that require electricity to charge? Do you have CPAPs, oxygen concentrators, things like that? So we know in the event of a hurricane what to prepare for and have in line for independent living. She's also there to help connect you with services. So a lot of that is, when the security gives us an incident report, resident fell, didn't go to the hospital, opted to stay at home. Her job is to come in and check in on the resident and make sure, are you doing all right? Did you still not want to go? Do you want to get checked out? Can we get home health in here? Can we get therapy in your apartment to maybe strengthen you up or address that? So she just kind of there to check in, touch base, and some folks might be like, nope, I'm good, I've got my plan, I've got my doctor. Great, that's all we want to make sure is that you're connected. Others, we just might need some help navigating that process or getting a hold of resources. And that kind of helps us manage attrition overall, right? The longer we can keep you in independent living, the better it is for the health of the organization and the community. So, and really that's kind of where we think the ultimate quality of life is in independent living. So the longer we can maximize that, the better for your experience as well. Culinary program, so with Kenny here, and a lot of support from the various Unidyne reps, we're really kind of delving into the operations. We've talked kind of at length in culinary committee and some of the culinary corner meetings, but just kind of want to touch on some of the things that we're working on that certainly will have an impact on you. The first one, not so much, but team member meals. I just wanted you to be aware we do offer a reduced cost for a team member meal. $3.50 buys a team member an entree and 2 sides. I think over time we've gotten maybe a little bit away from what it was supposed to be, so we've kind of gone back and established, hey, these are the entrees that qualify, these are the sides. We went through and made sure we've got healthy options, so it's not all hamburgers and french fries. We've added 4 different salads, lots of steamed veggie sides and fruit and things like that, so trying to offer good, well-balanced options. But yet we still do have the cheeseburger and fries, as I can attest once in a while. But it really is a benefit to our team members. You look at our competitors, they offer reduced meals, but those prices have been coming up over time. $4.50, $5 instead of the $3.50. So it really is a benefit, and it is something technically that's provided by you to our team members, so you should be aware of that. Drinks are not included, so if they want a soda, if they want a bottle of water, they need to pay for that additionally, so encourage them to bring their own drinks and things like that. The always available menu for residents. As we went through the process with team members, we kind of realized, well, there's the always available menu for the residents. There's a lot of similarities, so we were able to kind of streamline and say, okay, if we're offering a chicken salad sandwich here, we can offer a chicken salad sandwich there. We have added we have tweaked a few of the items for the residents. Salmon, offering various types of salmon, preparations of salmon. Really, we're just gonna say salmon, prepared as you liked. So if you want it, you know, broiled, you want it grilled, you want it whatever, you know, we have salmon, our chefs can prepare it. So as an always available, we're just gonna say salmon prepared as you liked. There was a lot of talk about chicken, the grilled chicken, the roasted chicken. We're gonna keep both, so have a grilled chicken breast and have the rotisserie chicken as well. We heard the grilled chicken is too dry, so kind of we went through the discovery process to see all that fancy sous vide process that we had done wasn't being used, so that needs to be used, because if you're sous videing chicken, you can't over grill and dry it out. So appreciate some of the feedback there. Catering, we are in the finishing stages of kind of putting together a nice, pretty catering guide for you. So this kind of outlines in general what we offer from breakfast options, lunch options, dinner options, snacks, things like that, the per person cost that you could expect to, so you can select. We're certainly very happy to continue having discussions with the chef in Orlando as to something custom that you want, but we figured this would start to give some guidance as to what we can offer and maybe ultimately increase our catering offerings. Got to stay tuned to that. I think we're just finishing the final edit today, so maybe even by the Friday this might be available in Touchtown for you to peruse and see. We are kind of going through the process when we look at catering. What are the various charges? Are there room charges? Are there labor charges? Are there supply charges? So kind of working through what I understand some of the resident expectations to be, what some of our costs are with current catering programs that we're maybe not recouping. Again, the goal is not to make boku money off of you. It is a service that we provide, it is an extra service, but we want to make sure we're at least breaking even on this and that other residents aren't subsidizing the cost. So we're kind of, as we're working through that, we're going to try and polish that up and be a little bit more transparent about, if you do this, these are the costs up front, so you can decide, I want this, I don't want this, and so on and so forth. The other part too is, as we start to clarify these kinds of programs, it helps to shore up our existing, bread and butter service, right? The main dining room. In the past, I think we've been guilty of maybe we pull staff from one area to support another area. Well, then we run into service issues in the main dining room. If we want to address the service issues in the main dining room, we need to be consistent about what we're staffing and what we're executing there from a front of house perspective and also in the back. If we're going to do a side catering event that's going to have a different menu, we really need to have a cook who's dedicated to making sure that that menu is executed correctly, but also that the main dining room doesn't suffer because now George is cooking 2 dishes in each hand. So, culinary is one of those things where you start pulling on the string and the ball starts to unravel, but we're kind of going through that process. But I think we're making some structural and procedural changes that will have a meaningful impact on the program as a whole. There was frustration expressed about the phones always ringing, especially trying to make reservations. So one of the things we're going to go back and explore, I know there was a maybe not so successful rollout of online reservations. We're going to go back and kind of see what the deal is there. We have the resources to be able to do that. We're not going to try and push everybody to online reservations, but the idea is if even half the folks do an online reservation and the other half call in, the half that do call in have a better chance of getting their call answered more quickly. It's less phone calls for the team members to have to manage. So overall, hopefully everybody's experience kind of elevates there. We, not on here, but kind of once we get past the online reservation part, we want to look at online ordering. So you're not always calling in to A, hear a menu of what the offerings are, and then B, on hold to put in an order. If you're comfortable with hopping online and placing your order for the day, we want that to be an option for you. Again, not required, just another avenue to be able to take some of the pressure off the more manual phone calls, messages, things like that. We're also looking at the Flex Dining program. This essentially is offering an alternative to the meal credit program. This would be some sort of spend down point or dollar value that you would get each month that you could use on items. This is like a LifeSpace Unidine project that they're working on. Harbor's Edge is going to be the first kind of pilot site for this, and probably mid-July, end of July, that they'll be rolling this out, and we'll be going through a process of, you know, learning, tweaking, and then kind of rolling out from there. But I know Village on the Green is probably not too far behind Harbor's Edge, so I think probably this year I'll be coming back to you and explaining this is the program that we're going to offer and kind of diving into it. So I'm happy not to be the test balloon on this one, but I'm interested in the potential that it offers, because I think it might address some of the concerns about, you know, I don't see the value in a meal credit, I don't use all of my meal credits. Well, here's another way to potentially utilize those resources while still supporting our culinary program. Because at the end of the day, the meal credit program or a spend down program, it's there kind of to make sure we have a built-in minimum, a built-in base of usage for our dining program and our facilities, so we can offer what we do offer. So the idea is really maximizing residents' utilization of that, which kind of leads me into the next part, which is the meal credit redemption. I know there's been a lot of heartache around what can we get. I've got orders outstanding. What does a meal credit buy? I'm still learning a lot about what was done in the past, or what was said, or what your understanding is, and certainly understand the frustration around that. So kind of what came up at Culinary Committee was, look, we get there's a lot of confusion around this, so let's clarify it. Let's set what the program's going to be going forward, and then from that standard we can tweak as we need to. So what we've come up with is 1 meal credit equals 4 items: an entree, a side, a snack, and a beverage. Okay? Here are some of the options that exist under entrees, under snacks, and so forth. Especially, I think already one of the things that came back from culinary is they want more salad options under entrees. Fine, happy to tweak this going forward, but at least now you know, and what I can train all of our team members on is this is what 1 meal credit equals. What you'll see kind of going away with this is a little bit of like the grocery program, right? 1 meal credit equals 6 candy bars, 1 meal credit equals 2 dozen bananas. Like those things, a lot of that stuff exists. Like I've seen so many different forms and certainly understand. There are orders already in. We will honor those, we will fulfill those. Chef Carlos from Unidyne is gonna come in, I think, next week and help the baker to bake as much bread as he can, so we can get all of those banana breads and various other breads that are outstanding for months and months and months, just caught up and cleared out. So this is really kind of going forward, this is what we'll commit to in terms of the meal exchange. We'll clear out all the backlogged items. We're trying not to be a grocery program, because part of that leads to some of the issues you have in main dining, which like shortages, right? So we have, I'll use soda as an example. Let's say Coke Zero. We expect, based on our usage, we need, say 6 cases of soda, of Coke Zero every week. So Coke knows they're gonna deliver 6 cases. Some of the trouble we've gotten into is someone comes and says, I want 3 cases of Coke Zero, I'm gonna use these meals to get that. We said yes, we took those 3 cases out of inventory, we only have 3 halfway through the week, we're out of Coke Zero. So someone orders it in the main dining room and we're like, we don't have Coke Zero anymore. It's not a great experience, right? So ultimately what I'd like to do is where we're firing off consistently and executing consistently and not kind of shooting ourselves in the foot by trying to appease one area, but then we fall short on service on really the most basic area. So we're trying to reduce the grocery style purchases so we can get some more consistency in our purchasing, our ordering, our execution of that, while still providing an outlet for you to be able to at least get something for meals that have gone unused.
We have one choice for extra meals, and that is this.
Yes.
You don't order cookies or anything else.
Yes, ma'am.
This is the only way.
This is what we're gonna do.
Your extra meals.
Now, before you grab your pitchforks and your torches and all of that, I'm learning a lot as we dive into this. So if there's some program that existed that like Ken doesn't know about and I don't know about, come tell me about it. Like if you say, hey, I used to be able to do this, are you taking that away? Don't assume I know, come and talk to me about it, because there might be something I'm stepping on that I don't. But what I kind of promised Culinary Committee was that right now it's way too vague from a community administration point and a resident standpoint. Let's start with clarifying it, and then we'll take our lumps and learn and tweak it as we go along. So,
Second question.
yes.
Will the pack and go offer more things? No, right now they're having sandwiches for I can't tell you how long.
Okay. I know when that came up in culinary, you know, we looked at Masoom and ordering, and like we need to make sure that it's tight. If we're going to direct people to this, those cases have to be full with the items that you want. So I'm happy to take that back and make sure that they're following through on that. And really, that's also where the feedback, your feedback's important. You know, if we're stocking a whole bunch of, you know, tuna sandwiches and nobody's buying tuna sandwiches and you guys want wraps, or I heard you don't want wraps, you know, we can go away from wraps. We can adjust our orders, and we're happy to respond to that. But yes, it has to be full. So if we're not kind of following through with that, or if we have to do substitutions, we should be doing that so that it's at least full and available for you. So I appreciate you sharing that. Any other follow-up? Yes, ma'am.
If you have, let's say, 2 credits and it's 3 days before the end of the month, can you order for a couple, can you order 4 meals off the menu, or do you have to order from that? That's what I'm not clear on.
So let me clarify that in terms of, I don't necessarily see an issue with that. So that, you know, for the folks at home who are wondering, you know, if you have 2 meal credits left, there's 3 days left, can you still order to-goes with, you know, your meals? I don't have an issue with that. I think what we were trying to address with this was outside of what is normally on the menu or normally available, whether it's in-house or to-go, what do we offer? And so that's what we were trying to target with this. So like, if you don't want to buy a meal off of the existing lunch dinner menu, this is your alternative. So I don't think that that's going away by any means, but I will confirm that and make sure that we include that that is an option. You know, that technically this isn't the only option. You could redeem for meals and, you know, put them in the fridge for the day or freeze them or whatever. But yeah, that should stay. You know? Yes, sir. Ms. Tolles?
Thank you.
What about guest credits? If I don't use a meal, I can bring my daughter for lunch.
So the question was guest meals. Nothing changing with the guest meals. You know, if you want to utilize that for your extra meals, that's fine. Yep. Good points.
There's a charge for holiday guests,
Yes.
2 meals.
Yes. The holiday guests, so like the pricing on that, the redemption of that, we're not going to mess with that. That's just, as you've come to expect, that'll stay. No.
I don't know what a team member meal is, and when are the culinary bi-monthly meetings? Bi-weekly?
Well, so the team member meal is kind of what I explained. It's like it's a set menu that they can order every day. So, for example, like I come in and by 10:30 a.m. I can fill out a little slip that says, you know, I want a hot dog, I want 2 sides, and I want a
But
drink.
this is for workers?
This is for our workers.
For our-
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Good.
And I share that with you because, you know, it is technically a benefit that you offer the team members, is, you know, a subsidized meal. Obviously, we try and keep our food costs within that $350, so we're not giving away the house here. But, you know, technically that is a program residents provide, so I want you to be aware, you know, we've made tweaks to it and we're keeping folks honest to that. But the bi-weekly culinary committee did not get onto this month's calendar. That was my fault. I just didn't get it to Rhonda in time. So I'll put it in the weekly update. So Friday's weekly update will have the info for the coming week because there's a culinary week meeting a week from this Friday. So basically I do like a ED chat one Friday and then a culinary the next and the ED and culinary and just kind of bounce back and forth. You know.
Someone wisely had once suggested to put less stress on your system is that you didn't have the entire community coming up against the same deadline.
Mhm.
That if you fractured us into two
And here
groups,
you,
I'll repeat it,
that it would be easier for you guys, and that we had two sections.
So the comment was that in the past, the observation that I made, it would be good if all the residents weren't on the same expiration cycle of meal credits or, you know, whatever points balance. I know with the pilot that they're doing at Harbor's Edge, they're splitting residents in half. Half will have a reset on the 1st and half will have it on the 15th. So you don't have everybody coming in on the last 2 days of the month to do that. So, but they're working through what does that initial reset look like? What's the financial ramification to the resident, to the community? How do you execute that consistently? So thankfully they're working through all the bugs on that, but that is what they're looking at. Basil?
Joey, what I'm hearing from this is that this is it, and what's going away is the old system of ordering a loaf of bread or a dozen cookies, or so that's off the plate for.
Correct. So basically what's off the plate now is like the loaf of bread, the banana bread, those like one-off items that you could order. That's what's going away. And I don't want to say that that's forever, because if there is something, I'm happy to have the dialogue, but from what I understand, we haven't been delivering on that. We just keep taking orders and not fulfilling them. So we're gonna plow through, we're gonna bring some extra people in to just get all of that done and caught up. And then going forward, this is kind of the framework we're gonna use. Now, if there's a real popular demand for a specific item, I'm happy to talk about it and, you know, see what the numbers are and bring that back. But at least what we're working off of, you can say, Joey, I don't like this part of this program. We haven't really been able to point to what the program is all of this time. So this is like a reset for us. Beth?
Question, how about if people go away for 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month?
So the question is how about when people go away? So I haven't touched that policy in terms of what it currently is, and honestly, I don't even know. I'd have to talk to Javier about that. I know that they're looking at what are those options when they're looking at these new potential meal plan offerings, what that would be for someone who's gone for 2 weeks or a month or whatever. But in kind of this meal credit redemption, I'm not making any changes to what you currently have. Yes, ma'am.
When will the always available menu be finalized? I see things appearing, disappearing, and
Yeah, so I think we've been, part of our work to standardize it was in feedback of, hey, stuff's moving back and forth all over the place. So we've kind of agreed on what the items are going to be. I'm kind of waiting on Chef George and Kenny to tell me, based on our ordering, based on our kind of operationally, when can we have our set. I would imagine it's within the next week or two that we are kind of realigned on our always available menu. But I can give you a firm date, probably a weekly update, and say, hey, this is what Culinary is telling us. Our new menu is going to always available is going to be always available. Yeah. Good questions. Okay. Happy or not, we utilize it. I promise you. I will say, in seeing this, I kind of want to give kudos to the Oaks team. We were having a lot of issues in assisted living with our culinary program. We still have issues to iron out, but they've made a lot of progress. Having their sous chef, Chef Allison over there, just dedicated the Oaks, I think has started to make an impact. Historically, the Oaks AL experience point has always been the lowest when you look at Palm Court and Heron and on the campus. And now they're starting to pop up as having some pretty good days over there. So we're happy to see some of the fruits of our labor there paying off a little bit. When you compare April versus May, so May is the blue squiggly line, the gray is April, and it's kind of lined up from a day perspective and menu perspective, so we can kind of see high points, low points, what was impacting that. Ideally, what we see is fewer spikes, right? Those high to low, because that to me speaks to consistency or inconsistencies in our service, in our menu there. So we had a couple of stretches, a couple of weeks where it's consistent now.
Are those dates, or it says dates, but do you track dates or do you track days of the week?
It's days of the week, and then kind of like the bottom x-axis there is just a few of the days of the, just from like a legibility perspective, but that's each day we track it. So we can then go back and say, okay, chicken piccata consistently hits really well. Great, that's something we should probably keep going. Maybe meatloaf, rock hard every single time. People don't like it. Let's just get rid of meatloaf or change the recipe or something. So that's why we look at it on like a day-to-day basis over time.
Okay, well, I was also wondering, comparing a Friday to a Friday and a Wednesday to a Wednesday,
Yep.
blah, blah.
Allows us to look at that, especially on weekends.
Yeah.
We can see Saturdays and Sundays. We spend a lot of time at the Oaks because we were seeing the Oaks Saturday, Sunday service was always the worst rated. So when you start digging into that, it was service issues, taking too long, not enough servers in the dining room. We went and looked, and like everybody on the weekend the oldest person was 19. You can't run a business like that. You gotta have supervisors there. So now every supervisor works every weekend, or they work every other weekend, but every weekend there's a supervisor. Lo and behold, service times have improved. Not to say that the kids weren't doing what they're supposed to, but you need someone there reminding them, moving them along, helping them adapt to curveballs. So just simple things like that this lets us identify fairly quickly of where issues are. Occupancy, so this is as of the end of April, off from our budgeted expectation by 1, but the attrition lower than we budgeted. We have seen some of that attrition catch up to us, in the last month or so. Unfortunately, in the form of resident deaths, that's been kind of the big one. Overall, I'd still say we're in good shape, but the focus really is on continuing to bring new residents in. So you're going to start to see some of Megan's new strategies implemented. So this in July, our marketing events are going to be much smaller. I think our largest one is 31 prospects. We have another one that's 16 prospects. They're actually the same event twice, kind of back-to-back days, but it's just in an effort to reduce the size, increase that one-to-one connection between the sales counselor and the prospective resident, and really help them, give them that special attention, which you can't do in a really big setting. It's definitely more cost-effective too, when you're not having to do these knockout, huge, big events as well. We're also, Megan had kind of shared at one of, I think it was Java with Joe last time, that we're going to be offering, starting with kind of the residents that moved in the last 18 months, the kind of the ability to either host a function in your home or in one of our dining spaces for you and a group of your guests. So that could be an interest group, that could be a church group, that could be whatever. But folks that, it's not a sales event the whole time. There's an element of sales certainly, but we want to be able to bring you and your group in, share a little bit about Village on the Green and potential opportunities we have here, but then also, pay for the lunch or pay for the dinner for you and that group, so you can certainly have your event and socialize and whatnot. So Megan, I think they have their first one scheduled, and they're going to be kind of rolling that out over time. And I think that's probably another way of offering, instead of just resident referrals, please give us names, let us host a little event, and maybe that naturally, gets folks interested and exposed to our community, and they express interest themselves versus us having to chase after them. So some of those strategies we're starting to certainly employ there. Financial, so try to keep it a little higher level instead of getting too far into the weeds here. Revenue ahead of where we expected. A big part of that is obviously independent living, occupancy slowly coming up from that 72 to now 75%. And then also the strong performance in our higher levels of living this month. Last month we've had skilled nursing hit 100% quite a few days, same with AL and memory care. So those are certainly ahead of kind of our budgeted expectations. Expenses below revenue, which is good, means we're staying positive, but a little bit ahead of where we budgeted. And really the majority of that, we're kind of still working through some labor issues. We had some serious challenges in January. We made a lot of improvements improvements. We lost a little bit ground in April, kind of put our eye back on the ball in May, and we're seeing that improve again. So, if we really take care of our labor expenses, we're in good shape from a perspective of the revenue that we have coming in. So we are off our move-in expectation by one, so our net entry fees is a little bit off, but 2.1 million versus a 2.4, but really you add that one sale, you're right back there. The net cash production, that's taken your your bottom line, your net operating margin, adding that to your net entry fees, and the total cash produced is positive as well. Not quite to where we wanted for budget, but again, that's really probably attributable to that one move-in that we're off.
Joey, what's rental?
So we have 3 communities in the LifeSpace system. There's the CMW communities in Texas. They're rentals, so we put that percentage up there for them to be aware of on there. We are going into the budget process for 2024. There's a lot of changes to the process. As I understand it, this is really my first time going through it. So I just kind of wanted to share some of the dates and give you an idea of this process. Capital budgets are due June 30th, so that's me submitting that to the home office. Realistically, Tuesday is my due date, so I just found out about this on Monday, so they gave me a lot of time on it. But we've been doing our due diligence, so we're prepared. It's just scrambling a little bit. One of the things I did want to offer up, and I'm going to offer Steve Gus's name here. There are a lot of projects that folks have brought to me. Hey, Joey, we should look at sidewalks from here to there. We should look at a sound system in this room. I've been collecting those things, jotting them down, and kind of turning them into projects and seeing how we can get those either done this year or in future years. If there's something that you're like, you know what, I think this would be a really great idea, it's worth more than $2,500, it's something that can be amortized over 5 years, that's a capital project. Give your idea to Steve Gus. He's going to kind of tabulate them up for me, and then we're going to kind of work from there on the process of what's feasible, maybe what's more of a long-term project, maybe what's a little too crazy for us, but kind of want to certainly solicit any kind of feedback you have. You don't have to wait till the capital project process starts. If you have an idea, let me know, let Steve know. It's actually easier if it's done earlier in the year, because then we can vet it a little bit and then actually make a request. But this is kind of the process, the part of the year where we are soliciting that. So please send any ideas you have to Steve. You can certainly send them to me, but he's helping me out, filter some of the volume there on requests. Our labor budget and expense budgets due July 31st. So we kind of go through the capital process first, then we start looking at our schedules, our FTEs, and all of that. In July, also nailing down, what are our office expenses, what are our catering expenses, that kind of stuff we pin down in July. Home office takes August to go through that, and obviously as they're going through that, they're giving us feedback or asking us questions that we answer or fortify or maybe modify. It gets locked in September, and then home office goes through it again in October. October is also when, as I understand it, the community EDs will go to the home office and defend those budgets. So why are you asking for this? Why are you asking for that? That kind of process. And then the board review and will approve on November 17th. It's a little bit of a different process to those of you familiar with it. In the past, I understand the board would approve, I think in August or September, the rate increase, and then they would approve the budget in the fall. That was somewhat necessary because, especially here in the state of Florida, we have to give you 60 days notice for any kind of rate increase. So if we were going to give you a rate increase effective January 1st, you needed to know about it in October, right? So this new process could potentially delay the rate increase implementation, because really from November 17th, then once it's board approved, we can put all the collateral letters together, calculations, and then give you notice. So realistically, you're not going to get notice until the beginning of December. That doesn't leave enough time for 60-day notice for a January increase. So realistically, we're probably looking at a February 1st implementation date. I think this calendar that they've shared with us is final. so that they're not looking to make any changes to it, but it is a new process for them from a home office perspective, so I could see a couple wrinkles popping up, but just kind of wanted to give you a heads up. You probably won't have a traditional October rate increase, OIR meeting. We'll probably have to do a separate, because it doesn't fall in the quarterly cycle. One of the town halls will be just dedicated to the budget and the rate increase conversation. That'll probably be, you'll get your letters in the beginning of December, and then that meeting will be, second week of December. So just for planning purposes. So just in summary, overall, I think we're making steady progress on all of our goals, and that we've got some, meaningful action steps to try and improve that, our performance. Team member updates. So we made a change in the health center. Director of Nursing, Nikki Wazani, is no longer with the organization. So we're looking for a Director of Nursing to oversee the clinical aspect there. We've added an MDS coordinator. MDS stands for Minimum Data Set. This is a key position in the health center. She drives revenue. She takes all of our clinical documentation, turns that into, it's mumbo jumbo to me, but it's coding that she submits to insurance and to Medicare or Medicaid for payment. So the better job she does in coding, the potentially the more money we make. So it's a super important position, and she came to us from Westminster. She's very good at it. She's been a director of nursing. I mean, it's like having an all-star with MDS. Wanted you to be aware, a new maintenance tech, Scott Childress, has joined us. Yes, he came from Westminster. He is like one of the best guys, like solid man of faith. Like you can't find a better guy than Scott Childress. So he'll be in your homes, answering work orders and things like that. And I think you'll really, really like meeting Scott and having him around. He's a very good guy.
He used to work here.
He did, yes, actually. So technically, I did steal him, but I'm bringing him home.
You're bringing him
because
back.
when he was in high school, he worked as a server here. So he knew the community and was very excited to come home back. We are adding a housekeeping lead. So Trish Kalari is our supervisor. We're bringing on basically kind of a right hand or lieutenant for her to be able to support her. The idea is her attention can be more towards your homes, the cleanings in that, the scheduling of that. I can't quite announce who's coming or where they're coming from because he still has to put his notice in, hopefully today. But his focus will be the common areas, the clubhouse, the health center hallways, the building lounges, the breezeways, things like that. He's very well-versed in a lot of the heavy machinery you need to keep these floors up to date. He's good at reducing our vendor costs for fewer external carpet cleanings. He can really bring some carpets back from the dead, so I'm hoping he can do that for the main dining room. But just a super, super solid guy. I think you'll find him in the vein of Scott, just really, really solid people. And I think you'll see him a lot because he's going to be in these common areas, walking and working. We are still, we were down to 2 finalists for our culinary director, 2 super fabulous candidates. I'm hoping we're making an offer today, tomorrow, and so we can announce on Friday. Both are a little different. One is, a veteran of retirement communities and could probably, run the ship with her eyes closed, and the other is more of a restaurateur, so might have some catching up to do from a regulatory perspective, but the environments, the menus, the experiences he creates are outstanding. So we're kind of going back and forth on that right now. Clubhouse renovation. We had our grand opening. Yay! So we have finally resolved all of the disputes between the various engineers and contractors in regards to the paperwork that was holding that up. We have the last test we need to get the letter that's been holding us up is actually happening today. And we know we're going to pass it because we've already done our own test, but this is kind of like the final official test. We're saying at the latest, the end of Friday the 23rd. I don't know that we're gonna have it this week, so that's why I'm saying next week. But we should have our building final for phase 1 then. We've had our ongoing inspections for phase 2. And we've passed all of those. We don't have the same kind of issues in phase 2 as we did with phase 1. So we might actually get both building finals at the same time. The naming contest, I've gotten a lot of great names. Thank you. I'm going through the process of sorting and filtering because some folks gave the whole name. Some folks said, whatever you call it, it should be described as, you know, an annex or a center. And, you know, so just trying to put all that together, bring that to resident council so we can kind of winnow the names down a little bit. But some really creative names were suggested, and I think we'll come up with something really nice for that area. We're doing punch list items in phase 2 right now, so you'll still see workers repainting stuff, touching up grout, that kind of stuff. They've got quite a few things to do that they couldn't do before the party because they were still building it. But a couple more weeks of work, I think, before we start seeing the vendors starting to tail off there.
Excuse me, Joey, I
Yes.
saw Russell this morning. Is he here for that?
No, I saw Russell too.
Oh, okay. Well, all right.
Walking on the green.
Pleasant surprise to see
Yeah,
him.
I thought he was, trying to sign off on what we finished.
I wonder if more signage is going to come for those long hallways.
Yes.
So the question is, will there be more signage for the long hallways? There will be. I asked the designers to hold off on making the signage because our naming, I wanted that to be incorporated in the signage. And also, I wanted to review what they had spec'd out, because in phase 2, there's a couple places, the Spiritual Life Center is labeled as a chapel. It needs to be labeled as the Spiritual Life Center. My office is admin suite. I'm the only one there. It should say executive director. Wendy's office says director of facilities. Tony's not moving. So I said, time out before they make more signs. Let me see what they have scoped. Let's incorporate our naming and then do it all at once, because I'm sure I'm gonna end up having to pay for the redos as well.
Speaking of that, long hauls, a lot of the people have a difficult time walking all the way down. So could there not be a periodic bench, maybe on one side?
Oh my goodness, a bench.
On the other side.
Someone said the bench word. Did you hear that? Folks from yesterday's meeting? Inside joke at plant meeting. I had a little bit of a fit about benches. Certainly I understand that, and we can take a look at what we can do, because I'm sure folks need a pit stop area. I just want to make sure I don't run afoul of any egress issues from a fire marshal perspective, so sometimes you gotta do that stuff after you pass all your inspections. But we can take a look at that. I have also, we're gonna start getting into this now, is that service corridor right where dining is. We've got cones out all over the place because of how slick it is. You get the kitchen grease, you have water, you have, our staff wear non-skid shoes, so they're fine, but you're not wearing a non-skid shoe, or I'm not wearing a non-skid shoe. So we're gonna have to confront that. Part of that's gonna be a long-term capital solution, but I'm also kind of directing folks, would it be better to go out the glass doors back by, past the Heron Club and the main dining, and go around the back side and enter, the wings through that external area. Obviously, if it's pouring rain, that's not something you're gonna wanna do, but maybe, and I think it actually might be shorter than going the zigzag way back a house. But unfortunately, I think that's gonna be a thorn in our side, that hallway, for a little bit, until we can figure out how we keep it clean and how we're gonna use it and how we want folks to be able to navigate it. I know one of the things we're having with the entryway project, one of the goals is to connect this front entrance with a sidewalk to that entrance by Human Resources that used to be the old health center, so that you can, instead of coming all the way in, there's a place for you to be dropped by the tram, or if you park, there's an actual way to walk to that entrance without having to walk in the street. So, we've got a couple of things that we're gonna have to work on to make that all work a little bit better. So, yes ma'am.
Can we change some of these signs and say toilet to restroom?
Who's that?
Question was, can we change the toilet signs to restroom? Probably. I mean, you can fix anything with a little bit of money. You don't like toilet? Okay. And it kind of goes back to one of those things where, like, a designer picks it out and puts it up there, and then you're like, well, it's not really what it's for. So certainly some things we got to figure out. Yes, sir.
Joey, I guess we'll start migrating things that we were kind of ad hoc for meetings. I'm thinking specifically of the Brady Wilkins Scholarship Board. I've got a July meeting. Is it possible to have guidelines or understand what facilities will be available there instead of where
Sure.
we've been meeting here? I'm thinking of the boardroom, the guidelines for the use of that room.
So questions like, as we start bringing those rooms online, those spaces, will there be some guidelines as to, what rooms are available, when they're available? Yes, we're kind of building it as we're flying here. There are some scheduling systems that I think would help us keep all that straight, that you could look up very quickly and see, the conference room is open or the multi-purpose room is open. And then you could see, the conference room holds 14 people. It's, got AV. The multi-purpose room holds 24 people. It doesn't have AV right now. So you could, make those evaluations and say, yep, let me book this room for use. So in terms of utilization, if you're playing cards in the card room, go for it. You want to play billiards, go play billiards. What I am not, given the green light is like licensed activity, the masseuse. Those are licensed things, the salon. Until building final, they can get their license reactivated in those spaces. I'm asking them to hold off. We had plant meeting in the multi-purpose room the other day. If there's something in the short term you want to get going over there, reach out to me and I'm happy to give you the kind of, we walk the space, what kind of setup do you want? We'll figure it out as we go. So you could plan for July if you want. But I'm hoping in the next 2 weeks that I'm giving you more, concrete, here's how you reserve rooms, here are the rooms that are available, here's the setups we could do in them. I think the housekeeping lead coming on board, his role has been to do a lot of that, and making sure, okay, I know Brady Wilkins meets on these days, this is the setup they have. He's very good about making sure, those setups are done so that you walk into the room and it's ready versus us scrambling around going, oh, I didn't know. So I'm looking forward to bringing him on board to help me also say, okay, what are the setups we can do in these rooms?
And that's the one that's Trish's assistant.
That would be Trish's right hand.
How's Westminster doing these days?
He's struggling.
Other people. So
I don't take any glee in it.
just to make sure I got this nailed
Yes.
down.
Yes.
Just to make sure if I've got something, after you left the awards dinner, I wanted to set up an information session. There's a lot of new people that really haven't had a chance to dig into what Brady Wilkins is. I'd like to offer that in July. And so if I want to schedule something over there, the boardroom would be too small. But
The multi-purpose room would work, and you and I can connect to book the day. But eventually there'll be a system where you could see, you booked it, and that there's the meeting on the calendar.
So come to you for that.
Come to me for right now, because Sue, Sue is used to using Microsoft Outlook with a calendar, and that has to be programmed. So we kind of went through with IT, and I said, I don't want to do all that. We're just going to go with a different system that ultimately everything's going to go to, because it's so user-friendly for the team members, for the residents. It's a system that, on the fanciest end, when you go to like a Marriott conference center, and you walk up to a room and there's a little iPad there, and it tells you, LifeSpace Communities is meeting in here from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. You can go as fancy as that, but it's the infrastructure behind it. They've got phone apps, they've got websites. You don't have to have user accounts, so it's very user friendly. And it allows me to confirm things. I can say residents can make one-off bookings, but they can't make recurring bookings. It's a very sophisticated system that's shockingly cheap. That works really well, so we're going to get that implemented now that we've got all these nice spaces to have to manage. Kind of last slide there, COVID-19. Doesn't seem to go away, but certainly we haven't seen any wild spikes. If you think back to January, we were looking at weekly cases totals of about 78,000, 81,000 in the state of Florida, and that's this past 10 weeks here in the state of Florida. You know, that positivity rate hasn't really dropped at all. And part of that is this statistic looks at the number of tests that are being submitted, how many are coming back positive. So theoretically, when over time we're reducing the number of people who are being tested just for being tested, and now you're testing people who are symptomatic. So I think we're probably at that with you know, the federal government has scaled back a lot of the requirements, and we're updating our policies and procedures on that front. But you know, it's kind of one of those things where the rules are going away much slower than, you know, the public declarations are. So we still have regulations in place that require us to do some kind of wonky stuff, but we're kind of feeling our way through that. Our next meeting is going to be July 14th, 10:30 right here. And I'll take any questions. I think. Yes, ma'am.
Is there anything on the schedule to clean the fascias of the village? We're in the circle, and the front of my house, I'm embarrassed. It is so, the white, this is so dirty. It needs a good spray.
So the question is, what are we doing about kind of maintaining the facades of the villas, especially, and the apartment buildings too? One of the things we discussed at Plant was, you know, in the budget process, I'm building in soft washes, kind of an annual soft wash, because especially here in Florida, you know, you do one of those soft wash treatments. I did one on my house like 4 years ago, and it still looks fantastic. Like I don't have the mildew, you know, my roof doesn't have the algae. We need to build that in so that we're doing that, you know, if not yearly, you know, once every 2 years or something like that. Because from what I understand, we've all been relying on Dino to do that, and Dino can only do so much, you know, so there's just not enough manpower on hand right now to do a thorough job. You need to hire a company who comes in and can knock out, you know, the circle in a day, because they've got the crews and the equipment to be able to do it. And then what Dino can do is he comes around and makes sure your porch is okay if so, you know, it's gnat season or whatever, and does the touch-ups here and there. So unfortunately, I don't have a great answer on the short term, but we're trying to get to, you know, like with window cleaning, we have a schedule established for when that's done, what's done, same soft wash for the villas, because ultimately that helps us too from a marketability perspective, from a resident satisfaction. It can help, you know, prolong the life of your building and the paint as well. So there's a lot of benefits to it. It's just we gotta be intentional about scheduling it and setting up a process through which we're getting it done. Other questions? Okay, I think it took an hour. That's shorter. That's shorter.
It is shorter.
And I'll turn it over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Joe. Oh, Steve just left, didn't he? Well, I'm going to kind of leave it maybe up to you all a little bit about what all I want to cover, because there's a lot. One of the things at the council meeting was that Steve Gus spoke to the residents about the upgrades that we were just given, and I included it in the minutes. I also have it here today, and I would love to take the time to read it to you, but I don't know whether you want me to take that time.
Yes.
No.
What am I hearing?
Get somebody to print them.
They're in the minutes. They're in the minutes. They're available at the front desk. Okay, but basically he talked about the fact, I can paraphrase it a little bit, all the different rooms we were given, and the fact that you know, not everything is perfect, of course, and it will take time. And as you've heard Joey say, there are just so many little details that need to be worked out, how we're going to operate with everything. But that was basically what he said, and it was a wonderful thing that he added. I want to particularly thank Dee Valiette, the library committee, and in particular for me, Sarah Parham, who came to my rescue. But the library committee worked tirelessly over the weekend to get the library up and running by Monday. To do that, because it's a reduced size from what we had before, supposedly, all the council books were taken out of there and they've been moved to the lounge. Well, they're not the prettiest books in the world, and yet we did find a section where I think they'll do very nicely, and for the first time since I've lived here, they'll be readily accessible to everybody. However, a good number of them have been in storage for over a year. They're not the least bit updated, nor are they particularly pretty. So the council does have work to do. I'm going to work to sort of restoring the fronts a little bit, but most of all, they're where we can reach them. And as I say, I thank Sarah Parham. She came to my rescue Monday and we got all of them transferred in there. I also want to thank Basil, who worked tirelessly in the background to go through a lot of the old Finance Committee books and determine some of the things that were just useless. I didn't include Al in it because, quite frankly, I felt that Basil had the historic knowledge of how much we could get rid of, and we did. And I took it all over to Wendy, and there it went. Now then, other things I want to mention. Steve, at the council meeting, thanked Stan for the Memorial Day service we had. I had forgotten to mention it, and I felt terrible about it. But Stan did, it was a beautiful, beautiful program, Stan. And I know it took other people to put it together, but you just did a wonderful job. Stan's been doing it for 11 years, and we thank you. Another thing that took place at the council meeting was the passing of a new dress code through the culinary committee. It's posted at the front desk. It's still, you know, there are things that it doesn't address, like what ladies are supposed to wear above the waist. But nevertheless, the basic thing that it does address is the fact that we're trying to get away from the raggedy jeans in the Palm Court when we're having our regular dining services. So that was put forth. You can't demand people wear certain things. We can't tell them, but that is our attempt at making it a little bit better. Now, the Brady Wilkins Scholarship Board, I want to mention that because we had our June 5th awards dinner. It was in the Palm Court. It was a full house, and it's the first time that we've joined together with LifeSpace to have a joint award, and that's a very, very significant thing. We had a guest speaker from our 2016 days, Kendall Neswald. We had attendees from the Oaks. Thank you, Charlie Madge, for honchoing, bringing them over. We had a table of assisted living people, and it was a very, very significant event. There is a regional meeting that will take place at the Waterford on the 27th of June. It's a little more expanded than it was before, in that it includes, of course, Joey and me, our finance chair, and this time Al will get to go. He was unable to attend last time, and our vice chair. So we're thankful to have it expanded to that level. We have one new member that I wanted to make we all aware of, is Sue Scambus, who moved in on the 30th of May. I imagine you'll see her around. And then, unfortunately, I do want to make some comments about remembrances. We had a celebration of life for driver Kenny Deering on May 26th. It was here in the Longwood Room, and it was attended to an overflow crowd. The chaplain Tom, I'm gonna cry, dear. Chaplain Tom put this together. He encouraged the community to express whatever they wanted to. And then it truly underscored the feelings that we have for Kenny, that he reflected the best of Village on the Green. And we will all miss him. Now, he wasn't the only one that passed away. There was a celebration for Pat Quinn on May 16th. That was in the Sable. It was a lovely, lovely, much smaller event. Very warm stories. It was lovely. There are others that are going to be forthcoming. I believe Dorothy Starks, there'll be a service, a memorial of some sort on June 28th, and I think Mary Reddy possibly on the 26th. There'll be more coming from that because those are arranged with Orlando, the very particulars and everything. But we've lost, and we also lost Pat Howard, and I don't know what arrangements have been made, but we have lost some significant people, including more recently Harriet Watkins, who was just barely new, and we lost her, and Dottie Eklund, who is one of our treasured people for years, and she passed away on the 12th. So I do want to, make mention of that sorrowfully. Now our committees, all reported. The Neighbor to Neighbor Committee has met with Megan, and Megan has some new approaches to how she's doing the program, but I think they have great respect for how she's addressing it, and we expect good things. Mindy commented on the closings and said that the Craigs and Eskins have volunteered to be buddies for the new people that are moving in. And then the question and answer thing that Diana does, they're open to suggestions from all of us as to things that we would like answered, questions we would like answered, certain areas that are puzzling to us, and she would design a paper that would be a door hanger for us. The massage room is ready to go. We don't have prices yet, and as Joey said, that's waiting for a little later to be opened up. We talked about the mingle party at the social committee meeting, and and so what did we say? Well, the fact that it was a great success. The mingle parties are run differently each time they're done. This particular one, you were asked to designate what state you were from, and that came out being a little unbalanced as to the seating and everything like that. So I don't know that they'll pursue that anymore, but because it was difficult to plan. But we've done it many other ways with questions that you have to answer, and you go around the room finding people to answer your questions and everything, and you get to meet everybody. Another comment was made that was done without any kind of bar service. I think some residents do like to have bar service at these types of events, and so we'll try to figure out something to make that happen a little more smoothly rather than running back and forth to the dining room. One of the things I wanted to mention lastly is in our new areas. The lounge is absolutely gorgeous, and we've defaced it already with our council books, but as I said, we'll try to dress them up a little bit so they're not so ugly. But the other thing is, if you're taking coffee and a Danish into the lounge, I think just like you would in your home, if you took something into your living room to eat, maybe we could on our own just pick up our plates and put them over on the sideboard at least, so that you're not leaving them on the tables all around, because it's a beautiful room. People come in and your chosen place has dirty plates by it. I think we can do better than that. I mean, we'll probably get a better system, but I would ask everybody to think about that if you take something in. I don't think it's unreasonable that we could take things in. We can, can't we? Yeah. I don't think you'd take fried chicken in there and try and, barbecue and stuff like that, but you certainly could have coffee in there. Now, are there any other things that are on your mind that I should cover? Well, how about if we end this? We got the minutes, you can all read the minutes. What, did I miss anything? Okay, let's go. Thank you.
Thank you.